Mystic Fix, a program for the whole being, with Julia Gordon-Bramer on News Talk STL.
And hello, I'm Julia Gordon-Bramer with Mystic Fix. This episode should be a really cool one. The card we're aligning this show with is the Emperor Tarot card. He is all about masculine energy and vision. And with that, I have chosen two male visionaries to learn from today. First, we're talking to Terrence LaMont Bellows, who's in the studio with me. He's the director at the St. Louis School of Metaphysics, and he's going to give us some idea of what that's all about. A little later in the program, we'll meet Tony Cho. I think a lot of spiritual people think that they must forfeit making money for the higher cause, or else they pretend to be more successful than they are, hoping that they'll actually get there. Our guest, Tony Cho, is there, and he is going to tell us his story of success. You'll see he is the epitome of emperor energy with an intensely spiritual base. But first, Terrence LaMont Bellows. He's a director at the St. Louis branch of the School of Metaphysics, which, Terrence, you say you're in your 50th year over there. Not you personally, but the school. Tell us a little bit about what the School of Metaphysics is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm only 44, but the school has been around for 50 years. And so it's an organization. It's also not-for-profit. So we work toward helping people to understand who they are, and we do that through a series of exercises that we teach for a class. We call it the Mastery of Consciousness. Mm-hmm. And so it's an opportunity for you to come together with another, few more groups of, people. There's different classes that are all week. You have classmates and a specific teacher. And then the main thing, the best thing, I think, is that you do receive these exercises that you can do. They're concentration, mental exercises, spiritual exercises, dream interpretation. It's kind of an opportunity to really walk through your own spiritual nature, understand yourself as a soul, and really feel into who you really are and what you're supposed to be doing on the planet.
So what kind of person joins there? Like, is this young, older, all walks?
I've had experiences over the 15 years that I've been there. I started in 2008. And I've had experiences of teaching people who are very young. 16 was the youngest person I've ever taught, and 82 is the oldest person I've ever taught. So as far as age, it's like that. It's a wide range. You just never know who it's going to be, who will walk through the door, because we just put out flyers, and it depends on what you want to learn in your life. So somebody like Tony, I would love to meet him. I really want to learn. I think I could learn a lot from him.
Tony Cho, our next guest. Yeah. Uh-huh.
He'd be somebody who I would love to learn from myself. I can't say that even in all of his understanding that you're, refreshing us with, I can't say that he couldn't learn something from being a student in the school, because I think there's lots of different opportunities for people to really understand themselves that the School of Metaphysics provides. And so it could be really anybody from any walk of life.
Okay. So you said you have all these classes, and you told me you have like a basic curriculum. Is that right?
That's what we call the Mastery of Consciousness. And so in that class, we teach some of my teachers that I've had have liked to call the main three things that we teach, the three jewels of, maybe the three jewels of consciousness, or the three jewels of the School of Metaphysics, which are concentration, meditation, and visualization. And so those are like the main things that we teach throughout this course of study that we call the Mastery of Consciousness, which has 4 different cycles. Mm-hmm. And so people start in the first cycle, and it's more about just grounding yourself, learning about the physical world, learning about what you can do and create within the physical more, and a little bit about dreams and emotions. Uh-huh. And then it goes deeper after that. We go into the second cycle, we go into the third cycle, and we go into the fourth cycle. And we learn about mind. We learn about what our mind really is, how it's different from the brain, and the different levels of consciousness.
Could you give us an idea of some of these tools and techniques you teach?
Yeah. So, and I want to make certain that I'm clear that I am a student as well. That's one of the main things that I think is super valuable about the school, is that it's a requirement in order for you to be a teacher that you are a student. Mm-hmm. Until you graduate from the course, which the amount of time that takes could be different for different people.
I mean, aren't we all students
Absolutely.
forever? I mean,
Yes.
I've been reading tarot cards for over 44 years, and I
Yeah.
still am learning with
Yeah.
everything I do.
You never want to think that you're done,
Uh-huh.
right? Yeah, so totally. Yeah, so the students that come are normally people who don't know much about this type of thing, who haven't really looked into it before. And so those exercises that we offer, another thing that we offer is we really would, you'd be more well served to be sober as a student. So a lot of people are doing different things in the world right now to help themselves to be able to see deeper. But this is a course of study where it's really designed for you to be able to do it without any substances.
I'm really glad to hear you say that, and not just because I'm sober, but because I've always said there's a reason, especially with alcohol, there's a reason they call it spirits,
Yes.
and it is a kind of a possession, and of course we're not thinking our most clearly, and it can, any sort of drugs can be treated as an escape. And while, we probably will have a program down the road on some of the hallucinogens and some spiritual aspects of that, and I'm not even necessarily opposed to that, but as a day-to-day practice, I don't think we need a crutch. I think, whether you want to call it God or spirit, it's available to everyone at any time. So how does the School of Metaphysics treat that? Do they call it God or source?
Sure.
Or
I mean, most of the time, I have a Christian background myself. We do not teach religion in the School of Metaphysics, but even that's an open door. Anybody who wants to come into the school can arrive there, and you only we ask you to only pay $20 a week when you come into the school building for a class each week that you're a student. So it's really accessible to most people in that way. But the exercises that we teach, you would be able to just focus your attention. It's about focusing your attention. It's about knowing where your attention is, and then being able to make decisions from that point, rather than what is a kind of a normal thing in the world where we have a lot of thoughts. A lot of people, I think scientists will tell you there's like 50 to, I don't know, maybe even 70,000 thoughts that a human has a day.
Yeah, wow.
And most of them are the same. And so what we want for our students and for our teachers and for the people that come to the school is to be able to recognize your thought patterns and your what we couldn't call habits. And so we do that through concentration. So there's concentration exercises that we teach when you first arrive at the school. The first couple of days you're there, you're given an exercise that you do daily. So that's the real benefit also, is being disciplined person with these exaercises at
So
home.
valuable right now when everyone's kind of on autopilot and just scrolling their feeds and the last thing we're doing is focusing, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the real big first thing. And then also knowing what you want in the world. So you can call that a goal. You could call it an ideal. What do you want to create? Who do you want to be? That's a really important focus as well. So when you know how to concentrate, then you can know how to create that goal for yourself that's really going to feed you on a deep level.
Cool. So the School of Metaphysics is actually a national organization, correct? And you're the St. Louis chapter of it? How many chapters are there?
Right now there's 12, counting our headquarters, which is in a little town called Wendyville, Missouri, which is where I'm actually headed. And that's been there like for the most of the 50 years.
Where is Wendyville? I've never even heard of it.
I'm headed out there this weekend for our classes and our events. It's our headquarters. And I'm not surprised that you haven't heard of it.
Yeah.
Because it's really small. But it's a mighty place as well. It has a lot of positive energy.
Small but mighty. I like that.
Yeah. It's a working organic farm, actually. It's 1,500 acres that we purchased back in the 80s. And the school itself started in 1973, and that was in Springfield, Missouri. And so they went from Springfield to Kansas City to Columbia to St. Anne, I believe, was the first school in this area.
Oh, wow.
And so now we're actually in Maplewood is where our school is. But we serve this area, the St. Louis area.
Sure.
And so we have another school. We have Chicago, actually. We have two schools in suburbs of Chicago plus Chicago. So we have the Chicago area. We're in Indianapolis. We're also in Dallas, Oklahoma City, and Tulsa.
Okay, so our listeners from all over the country, could benefit from this.
Des Moines, Columbia, Missouri. Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's really great. Tell us about the benefits of this study. You know, have you seen lives changed? How
Yeah.
how have people responded? Is this like a certification, I guess?
I mean, it is like a certification, but the first part of your question, I think, would be a better way of answering, because the certification that you would receive wouldn't be something that you could take to a job or a.
Uh-huh. Well, maybe in my line of work you could.
Well, I guess it depends, right? Yeah. If it was I guess it kind of depends. But what happens is you do change. One story that's coming to my mind right now is a student that I had actually. His name is Marcus. He actually, we were in class. So our classes are evenings normally, from around 6 to 10:30, something like that. You come to the class, you come to the school, and you join your teacher and your fellow classmates, and you have class there. And so about a year and a half ago, we were having class, and he had already been kind of passing out a little bit, kind of stumbling throughout his days for a couple of months. He'd been having this experience.
Huh.
And he didn't think it was much of anything. Maybe he was tired.
Was not alcohol or drugs.
Not alcohol or drunk. He just thought maybe he's just tired, or he didn't really know what was going on. It was obvious that there was something going on, right? But he didn't think it was so serious. But we're in class, and he actually just fell out He stood up and just fell.
Oh, my goodness.
And almost hit his head on a table. And his brother is actually in the class, was in the class with him at that time, and so his twin brother. And so all three of us, at that point, we became pretty concerned. And so we kind of started to try to figure out what was going on. We sat him down, and we said, you know what, you need to go to the doctor. So he went, and come to find out that he had brain cancer.
Whoa.
And he was 24 years old, I believe.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I can talk more about how we understand sickness, but in general, that's not a good thing, right?
Of course.
And he had a giant tumor on his brain, and so he was able to heal it. Though at this point, right now, today, he actually rode over here with me. He's fully.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is exciting to hear.
And so he was able to use that power. Some people would just call it the power of positive thinking, or just awareness of who you are and what you need to do and what lessons you need to learn, because that's really how I've come to understand sickness, and that's what we teach in the school, is that there's always something that you, as a human, like you said earlier, need to learn. And at some points,
it's a lesson.
It's a lesson. We run away from our lessons.
Yeah.
And so he was probably ignoring a pretty important lesson in his life, but he found out how to see through it.
Well, yeah. All right. So we just have a couple more minutes, I believe. But can you tell me, you're a peace ambassador?
I am on that. Yeah.
What is that? I love the sound of it.
Yeah. So one of the ways we work that is if you go to peacedome.org, then you could register for our Zoom that we do every day at 7:30. We read what we call the Universal Peace Covenant. So the school has 3 tenets, which is peace, contentment, and security. And that's a big focus for us, all 3 of those. And so the peace ambassador is somebody who takes on the opportunities and champions the possibility of ushering peace into the world in different ways. And so one of the ways that we're doing that is we join together and we have this peace event that you can call it at 7:30 a.m. every day. Today was the 1053rd day. We started it during COVID, and we've done it consistently, Christmas, New Year's, even on my birthday.
Nice.
We continue to read the Peace Covenant together and spread peace around the world.
Yeah. Well, what about, you've got a Dream Awareness Weekend coming up?
Yeah, that's going to be, it's the last weekend of April. We've been doing that for about 27 years as well. That's something that we've been focused on because we learned how to interpret dreams, learn how to go into the inner mind and understand kind of why are we having this dream and that dream and what do the images mean. And so we've made a pretty strong focus throughout the years of helping people understand their dreams. Okay.
And so, Terrence LaMont, how can people reach you if they want to connect or learn more about the school?
So you can obviously call 314-645-0036. That's the number for the School of Metaphysics in Maplewood. You can go to peacedome.org or som.org.
Okay.
And we have classes coming up and lots of different events that you can take advantage of. So those are the 2 websites.
Okay, fantastic. Still ahead, How does one leverage the principles of social capitalism where everyone wins and still makes money? A true emperor and visionary, Tony Cho, is going to tell us when we come back. You're on News Talk STL 1019 and 94.1. And we're back with Mystic Fix on 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. We just had a great conversation with Terrence LaMont Bellows at the St. Louis School of Metaphysics. But now, how does one mix spirituality with business and succeed wildly? You'll find out when we meet the visionary and true emperor, Tony Cho, the founder and CEO of Future of Cities, the founder and chairman of Metro One, co-founder of Magic City Innovation District, the Cho Family Foundation, and ChoZen Retreat Center, which you may have heard mentioned as the place for our sponsor Kama Flight's workshops. What are all these things? Let's find out. Hi, Tony. It's great talking to you. I do each show in accordance with a tarot card, and you will be in line with the Emperor. And so the Emperor is our visionary and our leader and about masculine energy. And I just thought you would be an awesome match for that. And what appeals to me most about you is that you're all of these things, but intensely spiritual as well. So that I have your bio in front of me, which I can kind of hit on some main points here. But before I get into that, I wondered if you could explain a little in your own words about who you are and especially where you came from, because you have a very interesting background.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here with you on your amazing show, Julia. We've come to, know each other in the last few months and had a great experience through your intuitive abilities and just your presence, in terms of being able to listen and tune into what people feel. And I think the best quality about a leader, which is not the easiest thing, is actually to be a really good listener. And it's really more of a feminine quality more than a masculine quality. And I think that that's something that is important in this world, is whether you're a man or a woman, we all have masculine and feminine energies within us. And I think it's about that balance. And I think the world is kind of out of balance. It's been way too masculine for a bit, way too long. And I think that's why we've, found ourselves in the current predicament that we're in, the crises that we are experiencing, of trust and humanity and the climate and all of it. But I attribute a lot of my life and my passion to the upbringing that I had in an interfaith, intentional, spiritual community, ashram, that was started by my grandmother in the 70s, who was an American-born Jewish girl from a very poor neighborhood, very poor family, who married young and had my father when she was, 16, 17 years old. And when she started doing yoga and breathing techniques to really lose weight in her 30s, she started having these visions of these spiritual teachers, Neem Karoli Baba, Jesus Christ, Shirdi Sai Baba, many other mystics and spiritual teachers that she had no education or background in. And so she went on this journey and this quest, which, to discover who she was, and, realized through, experiences with Ram Dass, teaching with him and others, that she was a spiritual teacher who was channeling, this information that needed to be transmitted to people. And she developed a big following. And so I grew up in that community, which was very progressive interfaith community, and, was raised in that community, went to school there. There was a tribe of us growing up, of what we call the next generation of that youth. And, many of us, it was a celibate, strict, no drugs, no alcohol, no sex community. And we had experienced a lot of death and dying through the AIDS epidemic. And a lot of people came to Kashi to die, much like in India, they come to the Ganges to be burned and to be cremated and then put in the Ganges. So it was a similar concept. And so there was a lot of death and dying. And that was a beautiful and challenging time in my life. And then I left and flew the coop, so to speak, and went to college in Northwestern Chicago, and quickly realized that that wasn't the energy or the community that really resonated with me. And I moved back to Miami to experience different things, and fell in love with the Latin culture, Latin women, Spanish language, and kind of the energy of Miami at that moment in the 90s, which was a very special time, which took me to Argentina to learn Spanish. And I did an exchange program through Northwestern University. And that was when I had my kind of cultural, mind-opening, worldly expansion, and just fell in love with Argentina at the moment, 1998. That was the year that Madonna was filming Evita and Carlos Menem was president. The dollar and the peso were 1-to-1. And it was like 1999, literally. It was like a Prince song, the whole thing, because everything was kind of artificially inflated. And it was just fun. Imagine a 19-year-old kid grew up sleeping on the ashram floor. Next thing you know is running around South America, having a time of my life, and living with an Argentinian family, eating meat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, really good meat they have in Argentina. And I called my grandmother, the guru, and I said, listen, I've got bad news for you. I said, I'm moving to Argentina and I'm dropping out of school and I'm eating meat, and you're going to have to deal with it, basically. And she
what a
lost
rebel.
she lost her mind, and she was very upset. And she basically at that point told me that she was going to cut me off financially and excommunicate me from the community, and really wanted to demonstrate her force and her power, and control. And at that point I said, I'm going to do it on my own. I want to do it on my own. I want to define myself and, basically be my own person. And so I went looking for a job, and almost instantaneously I stumbled upon this I didn't have a penny to my name at that point, by the way. I was, very determined, and also scared at that time, because I just, I was basically abandoning my entire life, my community, to basically prove my independence. And ironically, within, hours, I was I stumbled upon this restaurant lounge hotspot in Buenos Aires called Bar Danzón, and I met the owner, and we hit it off instantly. And she hired me on the spot to be the host of this super happening lounge restaurant at the time in Buenos Aires. And the first week I'm working there, Madonna comes in with the president, and I meet basically the who's who of Latin America and Argentina. And
Oh my goodness.
My new life just took off from there. And from there,
Wow.
I started doing nightlife in Miami, New York, traveling around the world to film festivals in Cannes and Sundance. And
talk about being guided by spirit, that is really fascinating. And so how did you cycle back to Kashi then? Because your Kashi and the ChoZen Retreat Center are they're not, they're neighbors, correct?
Yeah.
And you're back in that life somewhat. I mean, not in an ashram, but
right.
But
so it's just, life goes full circle. This is Florida, and this land where the ashram is my indigenous land. And well, what happened is I met my love of my life, my wife Jimena, who and we actually met 23 years ago or more in nightlife in South Beach. She used to go out when she was in her late teens, and I knew her, and I always had a little crush on her, but we never really connected on a romantic level until many years later, about 14 years ago, 2009, I think. Yeah, 2009. And she didn't know anything about my background. She only knew me as a nightlife promoter. She didn't know about the ashram. She didn't know my career in real estate at that time. And we ran into each other outside of a party in Wynwood of a friend of ours during an art walk. And we just started talking, and it was like this instant connection. And she started telling me about that she was going to go to this ashram in Central Florida, but she didn't know that I was connected to it at all. And I was somewhat estranged and distant at that moment, because I went through my rebellious phase and I was wanting to be independent. And ashrams weren't as cool back then as they are now, and there's a lot of criticism and judgment around communities and things, and the ashram wasn't my grandmother wasn't without controversy. Some justified, some not justified, and she was a controversial woman, much the same as I'm a controversial speaker, and
As
certain
all
things.
change makers are, right? I mean,
Right.
if you're afraid of making waves, you're not going to accomplish much in this world, I don't think.
Yeah, if you're not making waves, then you're not really living. I think you have to really, you have to go on a limb. So then within a couple of weeks, basically, Jimena and I found ourselves at the ashram, and she met my grandmother, and my grandmother fell in love with her, and she ultimately ended up marrying us 4 months before she was diagnosed and passed away quickly by pancreatic cancer. And so that was about 11 years ago, almost exactly April 13th. And so after my mom's passing, we just wanted to get a property close to the ashram so that when we wanted to come and bring people, we could. And so we bought this property about 9 years ago, that it was adjacent to the ashram. It's actually the photo in my back. That's what I'm looking at outside my window. That's the St. Sebastian River Preserve, and it's a 22,000 acre nature preserve, which is one of the most biodiverse lagoon systems in North America. We have dolphins and manatees and wild boar and otter and all kinds of bird life and sea life. And we can go out to the ocean from here. We can go to the ashram from here. So we call it a Florida safari, and it really, at first ChoZen wasn't really a concept. It was just our house. And we called ChoZen basically the Cho farmhouse, because we wanted to grow our own food. And I've been always passionate about sustainability and sustainable living. And so we added some domes to the property, because it's like, we're in this paradise. And about 6 years ago, we had an incredible retreat where we invited change makers and thought leaders from all over the world, 40 of them, fully gifted. And people came from China, people came from Europe, people came from everywhere. It was called Time and Space. And it was really something that was absolutely spectacular and transformed people's lives, created partnerships and unions, and all things came out of that, from that simple act of gifting the gift of nature. And at that moment, we knew people were transformed and the world would be transformed. We knew that this place was a healing center. And at that moment, that's when ChoZen was born. It was like 6 years ago. And the logo kind of came organically through a mystic who drew it in the sand. And so it's been quite a journey. And we've worked with some incredible people throughout the years here. And it's really our home with a glamping camp behind it. But nature is the guru. Nature is the teacher. And that's what's beautiful.
It's worth mentioning that ChoZen is also the home of the workshops, the Kama Flight workshops, which is our sponsor. So our mutual friend, Roland. Yes.
We love Kama Flight.
Yeah. Tony, I wondered if you could tell us about some of your other projects. I mean, the future of cities blows my mind. When I looked at your website and saw what you as a visionary, right, and changing these urban environments. Tell us about that a little bit.
So what's really interesting is I grew up in nature on an ashram, but I have a penchant and a passion for community and culture. And cities are like an ecosystem and an organism that is sick and failing. The infrastructure is failing humanity, but the world's populations, now 50% of the world's population live in cities. And in the next 30 years, 73% will live in cities. And there's this mass migration into cities that are not prepared for it. And in order for us to protect biodiversity and, Mother Nature, we need to go up and not out horizontally. We need to go up vertically, but in a smart way that integrates this experience that we have in nature, but while we're in cities. So we need to provide people with basic unalienable rights, like clean air, clean water, mental well-being, free access to education and internet. And so there's many principles behind the work that we're doing at Future of Cities. And we're co-creating and open sourcing a new sustainable development framework called regenerative placemaking, which combines regenerative development theory with creative placemaking practices to really create environments, communities, and neighborhoods that create equity and inclusion and sustainability. That is a new model forward that's more like social capitalism than traditional capitalism in a way. And it's leveraging public-private partnerships, demonstration projects, and a framework that's interoperable and adaptable that any city, community, whether it's small or large, or an eco-village. We're working with Regen Villages, for example, on an operating system for communities that incorporate, being self-sufficient, producing your own food, water, energy, lights, all of it. Most cities are food deserts. How do we make them into food forests? So all of these concepts, that we want to impact the lives of 1 billion people through innovation in the built environment. That's our big, hairy, audacious idea. But it's not that we're going to be developing all these communities. We're inspiring the community leaders to co-design their best outcomes. That's the premise behind regenerative placemaking. It's not about Tony, Cho, or Future of Cities putting their flag in the sand. It's how do we accelerate this transition, this conscious uprising?
And it excites me how you're talking about conscious capitalism. Like, it's really finding a place of peace between two sides that there's a lot of animosity normally. And it just making it's a win-win. And I just think that's beautiful. And if we could, take the time to think more that way, we would have a much better world overall. You're also involved in Metro One, which is a real estate investment brokerage, management and development firm.
That was my first company. Yeah, I started 18 years ago. That was how I got into business in Miami after nightlife. Got my real estate license, and I started working with artists and creatives in the creative class in Miami's urban core, and became pretty much the pioneer of urban core real estate, where we're kind of revitalizing underserved communities, leveraging art and culture to inspire revitalization and business development. And so it was one of the pioneers.
I'm sorry, that brings us to the Magic City Innovation District in Little Haiti, correct?
Correct. But before that, I was really working deeply with the Wynwood Arts District and the Business Improvement District, of which I was a co-founder. And really what was interesting is to see a group of aligned leaders, even though they were competitors in real estate development and opportunities, we all came together and galvanized around a vision for a creative district that really uplifted creativity and artists and independent brands. And so our company, Metro One, our tagline is "We shape neighborhoods," because we curate. We've done about $4 billion in non-institutional deals with small, independent craft brands like Zach the Baker and Panther Coffee and Junior and Hatter and all of these independent, tastemakers that make up the heart and soul of Main Street.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And finally, there's the Cho Family Foundation. You don't stop.
Well, I mean, it's all part of an ecosystem. I don't look at them all as separate. I look at all of our, businesses. I'm a serial entrepreneur focused on impact. And so I don't operate all the businesses. We have a partner in Metro One now. I mean, I started it and I'm involved as a chairman, as an advisor, a business development person, but I'm more passive in that. I mean, Future of Cities is my main, focus now from an operational. I'm the CEO of Future of Cities. And then I have my family office that invests in various different things like Caravana, the clothing brand that is all over the world, that promotes also indigenous artisan women clothes makers and culture. And I think that that's beautiful as well. So we really invest in things that we believe in, that we're value aligned, and that are within an ecosystem that supports. I mean, I'm wearing the clothing now. So, I mean, I feel everything I do. This is an artist friend of mine, Hebe Kozo, that does a lot of sacred geometry. And so everything that we have is kind of tied into one another. And the foundation is really focused on land conservation, environmental stewardship, very connected with ChoZen. And we support and indigenous causes. My wife has spent a lot of time in the Amazon, Brazilian, Peruvian, Colombian Amazon. And we're really passionate about indigenous leaders as They represent, only 3 or 4% of the world's population, but they steward 80 to 85% of the global biodiversity. And we have a lot to learn from indigenous people. And so even in Future of Cities, 7-generation planning, which is an indigenous concept where you look 3 generations ahead and 3 generations behind, what would your ancestors do? And what would your future ancestors do, essentially, to really plan, not just how do I get instant gratification or satisfaction, how do we plan for 7 generations of success? And it's just a different mindset, And so, so all of it tied in, and we've supported in Florida, Path of the Panther, which is really advocating for protecting a lot of wild Florida through the Florida Wildlife Corridor, which has already conserved over 17 million acres of wildlife corridor where the Florida panther can roam from the top of the state down to the bottom. And
that really gets my heart. I love the big cats.
Me too.
Well, Tony, you are a model of combining spirituality with that vision, with that emperor energy, and I'm just so honored to know you, and excited to one day work with you down in the ChoZen Retreat Center. So thank you for your time. We very much appreciate this, and we'll be talking to you again.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to your retreat at ChoZen, where we're talking about, intuitive mysticism coming into the fold, because I'm a big believer.
Thanks so much.
Coming up in our next segment, everyone's favorite, tarot card readings by yours truly. You're listening to News Talk STL 1019 and 94.1.
Our spiritual journey tonight will begin.
Can't outrun your fate.
Let me tell you about you.
I know who you are, what you are, and why you have come.
Take a good look at these cards, young man. They contain all the secrets of the universe.
What does it say?
I'm talking to Nicole today. I believe in New York City, is that right?
That's right. I am in the Big Apple.
Awesome. So what's your question today, Nicole?
So my question is actually about career.
Okay.
I work in outside sales, and I'm a rep for a pretty well-known company, and I am just there's been a lot of stylists in the industry that have been sort of, sad about how not busy they are. And so I am just really curious about career and the big picture of that.
Okay. Let me kind of tune into you here. Okay. So I see times are hard right now. We begin with the Page of Pentacles in reverse, which is saying you're not even sure you're going to keep in this direction. The Pentacles are like the gold coin, in career. They're money. And right now we've got the Five of Pentacles in the present day, which is saying, yikes, inflation's hitting you, and things are just very high priced, and you're feeling poor. However, it does look like within the next 3 months, you are having a real shift here. Your next card is the Sun. And so, sometimes the Sun can be like spring and summer influences, but the idea is that that you're happier, that things are brighter. It can also be a card of the spotlight, which is really cool. So I would say it's a very good 3 months for you to be in the spotlight in some way. Get online, get those cameras on you.
But yeah, the sun card is one of my favorite cards.
Mine too. I think that was the first card I fell in love with the tarot. Your top
card. It's such
a
beautiful card.
Yeah, and your top card here is even better. Your top card, Nicole, is the Wheel of Fortune. So I am really not worried about you. The energy of this year, and the top card, I look at you of what we call the horseshoe spread, where it all kind of goes to this point, this top card. Mm-hmm. And for a career to have the point be Wheel of Fortune, hello, you want that.
Yeah.
So I do think that the money is coming, and even coming this year. You're in the hardest time right now with this Five of Pentacles that you've got. But But I'm feeling very good for your career sooner rather than later. You've got the Ace of Wands, which is creative energy, and it is saying that within the next 6 months you're kind of revived. You know, it's like enthusiasm. Sometimes ideas can be part of that, and I just see you kind of like, yes, a new beginning. So feels really good. Hang in there. I would be very sad if you quit doing what you're doing, because it is great. Now, you have an interesting shift with the 10 of Cups in reverse. Where you work, it seems like it feels almost like family drama where you work. So it could be that there's a reorganization. It could be that people aren't necessarily getting along in the company in some way. And my only concern with that is your final card here is the 10 of Swords in reverse, which is saying you're taking it on yourself. You're like picking up the blame or feeling bad or guilty or wrong about something, which is, to me, feels like just drama. Kind of you're being pulled into unnecessary drama, and you're owning it, which I would suggest you don't. But you're going to do just great if you can give it another 3 to 6 months, just that short a time.
You know, that is so this is just literally so validating.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. I'm delighted to read for you. So maybe we'll talk to you again.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nicole.
That was literally, thank you.
Okay, have a great day. Bye-bye.
You too.
Hello?
Is this Trina?
Yes, it is.
Well, hi there, Trina. This is Julia from Mystic Fix.
Hi, Julia. How are you?
I'm doing great. Do you have a question for me?
Yes. Anything about my love life?
All right. So are we looking at any person in particular or just love in general?
Just love in general.
Okay, let's see. Oh, Trina, it looks like you have had some headaches around love.
Yes.
So, you know, we start with the Eight of Pentacles, which is a card of work. And your focus and attention is mainly on work as your first card, not on love. That's fine. You know, you got to take care of yourself. But you may be giving work the priority. Now, you do have in your environment here, you have a Knight of Swords. So there's a good guy kind of around you, if not right now, in the very near future. He is a knight, not a king, which just tells me he's sort of moving through, doesn't necessarily want to settle down. Not a bad guy at all, but he might be, you know, maybe a little on the younger side or certainly not on the commitment side. That's the problem. You have showing what you know is the Eight of Wands in reverse, which is like communication breakdowns and difficulties. And this may be just kind of around the kind of men you attract. It may be that, you know, you're just drawn to men who don't communicate, something like that. And so we've got the Nine of Swords in reverse as your top card here. When I say the top card, it's sort of the energy of the whole year. And it is about healing these headaches and heartaches. So if the Nine of Swords has to show up, I'm really glad to see it's upside down, which is what I mean by in reverse. But so you're moving past some of the nightmares with the communication difficulties, with the guys who don't want to commit, that sort of thing. Now, very interestingly, in the next 6 months, I see someone from your past coming back around to give you love. That's the Six of Cups. And it looks nice, and yet I see you're not interested in him, at least not in a romantic way. We've got the Four of Cups next, which is someone offering you love, and you're like, I don't think so. So I see you holding out for the Chariot. And Trina, I think this is great because the Chariot is driven and ambitious and reaches his or her goal. This time next year, you feel that love is going in the right direction. That's another meaning of the Chariot. But it looks like it's going to take that long. And part of it is you're still healing some stuff and you're still working out the communication difficulties. And you're really working on choosing a better man, choosing somebody who's going to stick around and wants to settle down, and not these knights who are just riding through.
Okay.
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 So I hope
Sounds
that was
good.
helpful. Good. Thank you so much. It was great talking to you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Okay. Well, before we go, I want to thank our sponsor, Comma Flight, at the ChoZen Retreat Center in Sebastian, Florida. Comma Flight redefines the dance between the masculine and the feminine. Visit at Comma Flight, that's at KAMAFLIGHT on Instagram for videos, links, and more information. Well, that's another episode of Mystic Fix. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe to the podcast or videocast. Subscriptions are the way we get found in searches, and it really helps. You're listening to Mystic Fix on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Until next time.